Hello friends, God is good all the time. Heidi here from Rain Country Homestead. And today on Homestead Happenings, I want to show you some of the little things we do around here to live a more frugal, healthy, and self-sustainable lifestyle. So I hope you enjoy it, and let's get to it. A few days ago, I did a video on how to make Lacto fermented pickles. So if you haven't seen that one yet, you might want to go back and find it and watch that one. I'll try to remember to link it in the video description. But it's been 3 days since these have been fermenting, and that's the typical time frame it's going to take for these to get to fully bubbly and ready to go. And they are. And I'm going to show you. Let's see. I'm kind of afraid to open. I don't think it's going to blow up, but it's sort of hard. Let me turn. I forgot to flip the screen around, so let me flip this around and make sure I've got this in here. I'll back up a little bit. Can you hear that? Now, it's always best to open it slowly. Hear the bubbles. Hopefully, I don't know if the microphone is picking that up. But these are one of my favorite things. Lacto fermented pickles and kimchi. When it comes to fermented fruits and vegetables, those are my two favorite things. So these are very spicy. I've got red pepper in there, and then another pepper that, again, I can't remember the name of it, but it tastes like a jalapeno. I thought it was going to be hotter than it was because of the way it was labeled, but it was still really good. So this is what it looks like. And the reason the liquid is now red is from the red pepper flakes. So Lacto fermented pickles. They're ready, they're bubbly, they're yummy, and it's one of those things that when you eat one of these, if you've never had Lacto fermented pickles, when you eat the pickle itself, the cucumber is actually, it's fizzy. And I don't know, you may not like that. It might not be your cup of tea, but I love it. It just gives it that extra fun kick. So anyway, there you have it. I just wanted to give you an update for any of you who saw my Lacto fermented pickle making video. There we go. Another thing I want to show you guys is just how easy it is to cook in a solar oven. I've had this one. You can see it's a little beat up, but I've had it for at least 4 or 5 years now, and every summer it gets pulled out. Now, if we lived in maybe a cooler climate or a warmer climate, I would use it, be able to use it throughout the year. I know some people that use theirs all year long. They get a lot more sun. We don't get that much sun, and so summertime is really the only time I can use this, but it's still super nice because it's just really this easy. Okay, you see that pot right there? That is a chicken. You'll notice there is no liquid in there. You do not add liquid to, get out of there, Cody. You do not add liquid to things like this when you're roasting it in a solar oven, because it'll actually slow down the cooking time. And it will make plenty of its own juice as is. So I just stick the chicken in the pan and throw a few spices on it and herbs. Then I put the lid on, stick it in the solar oven, and put the cover on. Just like that. And if it's like today's a little bit cloudy-ish, and if I think I'm putting in this in early enough that I'm not worried about it. I'm going to leave the reflectors off, but if I start it later in the day or it's a little more cloudy, then I'll put the reflectors on it to double the heat that's in there. And that will get up to about 250 degrees. And I can just let that chicken cook all day. I never have to worry about it burning. I just forget about it until dinner time. Well, other than adjusting it and moving it around to keep facing the sun as the sun moves around on the deck. So, yes, the dogs know what that is. It's where I cook meat and it smells good. Something that happens on a daily basis around here is dehydrating. I mean, this time of the year, it's an everyday thing. I might have a couple of days where I just take a break, but usually every day during the spring and summer and part of the fall, I'm dehydrating things from the garden. This tray, so today, I'm showing you what I'm doing today. It's different every day because some days it's herbs like sage and oregano and basil, which I may actually go pick some basil and dehydrate that too today because I need to do that. And so here's rose petals and pansies. The rose petals are for making my vinegars. I prefer to use them fresh, but I've got a whole lot going right now. They're fresh when I'm making the vinegars. So I'm going to go ahead. I don't need to start any more vinegar right now. I've got a lot of vinegars going. So these will be used for either future vinegars or for using in my homemade soaps, shampoos, hair tonics, and the like. Same thing with the pansies. The pansies are excellent for the hair and the scalp. So these also go in my homemade shampoos and tonics and I make hairspray too, but I haven't got to the point of trying to put the herbs in the hairspray, so that might be an idea. Then the nasturtiums, also excellent to stimulate hair growth, just like lavender and rosemary. So nasturtiums also get used in my shampoo and hair tonic. The hair tonic is a new thing. I'll make it available to sell or barter with. But until I try it out on myself, I'm not going to make any claims of how well it works. And then another thing I've got dehydrating today are echinacea leaves and flowers to make a cold and flu tincture. So that's that. And then I think I will go ahead and go collect some basil and put that on the dehydrator as well. And then I'll show you how I have my dehydrator set up for this time of the year when we're getting lots of solar power. And then here's my dehydrator, and I've got another tray or two I'm going to put on there. So I'm going to put a tray of basil, and then I'm going to also be picking my calendula here pretty soon. I have to do that later in the day because I wait for it to fully bloom, and then I harvest it and then stick it on the dehydrator. So it's always the very last thing to go on there. But this outlet right here, this is connected to our solar system. And so this is running completely off solar. And the reason I do this in the greenhouse, excuse me, is because I don't want it in the house, obviously, when it's hot. It's just going to heat up the house even more. So I do it out here in the greenhouse where it's already hot anyway. And then in the wintertime I do dehydrating, but it's mostly beef jerky and things like that, and I do that on the wood stove. And I think I might have mentioned that in another video about how my husband built me a really cool drying rack for my wood stove. But yeah, there's that. I think that must have been the dehydrating tomatoes. Okay, so on to the basil. I got to get this picked and get it on the dehydrator. So there you have 2 trays of basil ready to dehydrate. This is the most I picked at one time, and all this basil on here on these trays, this has all been grown in little pots hanging up or sitting on that shelf in there in the greenhouse, and I grew it from seed. This is the first year I've had such a successful year growing basil from seed and getting this much of a harvest too. I did buy some basil starts at the store, and they did really good for a while, but now they're about done. My basil is doing much better than the starts I bought at the store. I'm thrilled. I'm so excited. And again, I did not use electricity. I put these in the actually no, these ones did better when I just direct seeded them into the pots and didn't try to do a greenhouse in a greenhouse kind of thing like I did with the tomatoes. And then next to be picked will be the calendula that's blooming everywhere. Let's see if I can get a close-up of a nice one. You see that? Look at that. I got honeybees everywhere. In the past couple of years since growing the borage and more flowers, you know, and I use everything. I use everything, but I get bees everywhere. I can always find bees in the borage for sure. And they love the woolly lamb's ear and the lavender and the echinacea. They're crazy about it all. It's cool. Anyway, so let me get these on the dehydrator, and then I've got to get out here and start harvesting my calendula flowers. So I got a half a tray of calendula. There'll be more throughout the day that'll be blooming, and I will get those on there too, and there'll probably be that much again, but I want to at least get these ones started. Some days I get a lot more, some days I get less, but since I've been harvesting them, I've been actually getting quite a bit. And as you can tell, most of these are a smaller variety. It's basically a mixed variety of calendula. And then I have one out there that it takes the longest to open up through the day. It's a thicker one. It's got more petals in it. You'll probably see that because I'll get a couple more of those put in here. I don't have as many of those. But anyway, there those are. And now I got to get on to making my lunch and heating up the water for washing the dishes. So now you can see my dehydrator is much taller with the basil and the calendula on there too. Now I have 12 trays, but I don't like going more than this. What do I have on here? There's 3, 6, 7. I got 7 on there, so that'll be all I put on there. The only time I like to do 12 is if I'm only doing herbs, and I have tomatoes in this bottom one here. Okay, so on to my dishes and making lunch. All this video vlogging, whatever you call it, keeps getting me to forget about things, so I needed to get the laundry hung up before I get to making my lunch. And thankfully I only have one load today, and that's it, except for a couple of unmentionables I'll hang up after I'm done videotaping, or vlogging, whatever. I know this isn't tape anymore, it's all digital. But this is the bigger clothesline I was telling you about. It starts from the greenhouse here, and then it goes all the way across. It's a nice long clothesline, and is attached to the playhouse. The playhouse, I failed to mention this in my first Homestead Happenings video when I was talking about the playhouse. And the reason, even though our kids are grown, the reason I'm keeping it is not only is it just cute, and did my husband build it, but I do hope to have grandbabies someday, and I want a place for them to be able to play, and they can enjoy something their dads used to play in. And by then maybe we'll have a slide going off there, even though the chickens will be down below, and there'll be a chicken yard out in front there. There's still an opening in the back, on the back. They can get up there, and then I don't know, maybe we'll find another way to have a zip line, but I don't know what we'd attach it to unless we had it go across the street to attach to a neighbor's tree. That'd be nice though. I think we'd have to put it up higher though. Yeah, so we're keeping the playhouse. I was glad that the whole project went together well, so that we didn't have to completely take that thing down. Patrick is pretty ingenious the way he comes up with ways to do things. I would have thought replacing the posts under there would be impossible, but you got a backhoe, and there's a lot you can do with the backhoe, I'm finding out. Anyway, now on to my lunch and heating water for dishes. This is what I've been cooking for lunch for myself pretty much every day for a few weeks, but I'm not burnt out on it yet, and that's good because this is zucchini, garden grown zucchini and onions, and I love this. And basically what I'm doing, I also have some dehydrated garlic and red pepper. I'm sure you can see that in there. And I've got coconut oil in there today. Typically I'll use butter for this one, for this particular type of thing, because I'm sauteing. And I want to show you what else I do. Remember the vinegar video when I showed you my raisin vinegar? I love to use my raisin vinegar, just a little bit in there, and saute it like that. And as you can see, I'm using my hot plate, plugged into the solar power, as is everything here in the kitchen right now, including the refrigerator and not the big range, but the toaster oven and And then I have the 2 hot plates. I have backup hot plates in case any of these break down on me. And the Nesco has so far been my favorite. And the coffee pot. I don't drink coffee anymore, but my husband does. And then the blender. Though I'm still thinking about getting a hand crank blender. The only thing that held me up from getting the hand crank blender is I was disappointed that the pitcher was plastic. And I know why. It's because it's made more for camping. But I'd really like, if I knew that I could get my glass pitcher to fit on there for sure, I'd probably just go ahead and buy it. I think my dog wants to go outside. Hang on. But alright, so this big pot of water I'm heating up so I can get my dishes done. So my dishes tend to pile up through the day. Because since I use this method, I'm not washing dishes all day long. You know, like wash them in the morning, wash them in the afternoon, wash them in the evening. I try to just do one big batch. That's why you usually don't see the other side of my kitchen, because I usually have dishes there that are waiting for the water to heat up, and then I just wash them all together like that, because I'll get the water nice and hot, then I'll add some cold water from the tap. And in the winter time, I do the same method using the wood stove to heat the water. There have been days, because I've said it a zillion times already, because we've had such a weird summer, that I've had to resort to and then the time frame might just been incredibly more busy this summer than ever before, that I've resorted to just using the hot water out of the tap. It's too warm to build a fire, and maybe even too cloudy to run the solar power all day. So for some of the smaller things, now if I had to, and if I was in a pinch, we didn't have electricity, I'd use the rocket stove, I'd use the propane stove. We have 2 camp stoves, and I have a camp oven with a stove top that run on propane, and then we also have a generator, a gas run generator. So we have several ways to cook with, and it's just not an issue, and to heat water with. So yeah, I could use any of those methods, and I know there was one more that I'm not thinking of. But I wouldn't build a fire on a day like today. I'm not going to build a fire in the house to heat water up or anything else. But alright, so there's that. One of the other things I do on a daily basis is grind flour. Now, when fresh ground flour really must be used immediately or frozen. And so what I do to keep up on it, this is what works best for me personally, is I grind the flour through the week a little bit every day, and I store it into quart-sized jars in the freezer. So I always keep 3 jars in there, and I have them marked from oldest to newest. And that way I'm cycling through. That way I can always keep up on my flour. Now the good thing is we've cut way back on bread, so for health reasons, we love bread, but for health reasons, you know, we're cutting way back on the carbs. But I still, like with the raspberry turnovers, I used fresh ground. Well, it's not really fresh because I grind it and freeze it, but home ground, whole white wheat flour. And I'll show you what it looks like in there. Now, I'm actually using 2 different types of wheat berries in there. I've got mostly a hard white wheat, and then I have a soft white wheat. So what it turns out to be is more of an all-purpose flour, and I'm really liking the ratio. I'll use about 4 parts hard white wheat to 1 part soft white wheat. And it's just a good all-around flour. It's good for crust, it's good for bread. And anyway, I'll show you how I do this. I'm going to explain something, because the wheat flours, they can take, when you're doing a soft white wheat, it grinds super duper easy. Super easy. There's no effort in turning that wheel. When you're grinding hard wheat, it is definitely much harder. But the plus side to the hard wheat is it goes through the grain mill much quicker. Sorry. Doggies. It goes through the grain mill much quicker, and then like I can do a cup of hard white wheat flour in 15 minutes. Whereas a soft wheat, if I do that alone, it takes a whole hour to do 1 cup. But it's not as much work. It just, you're standing there and you feel like you're wearing out your joints. So what I like, the other reason I like this combination of wheats is that it makes it so that it's it still goes through quickly, but I'm getting but not so hard. If I use completely hard white wheat, I usually have to use 2 arms. But this mix, I can use 1 arm, and it has some effort to it, so it gives me a good workout. And I'll show you how I do that to make sure all the muscles in my arms get used. So I always start with my right arm, which technically you're supposed to start with your weakest arm. I used to be a weightlifter, believe it or not. And I'll do about 20 rotations on the right arm overhand. Then I'll switch to the left, and I'll probably get right in front of the camera here, but I'll try to stand at an awkward angle. 20 rotations on that side. Okay, then you can tell I'm right-handed because this is my weaker arm, but I'm also having to stand at an odd angle because of the camera. So then back to the right arm, and I go underhand. And then left arm underhand. So then I take a break, I go do something else. Typically I'll keep a towel over it, even when I'm grinding, because I've got the ceiling fan on high and it blows the flour everywhere, but I wanted to leave it off to show you the demonstration. And I'll do another chore, because this actually gets me winded, and it's better than doing push-ups. I used to do push-ups every day. I don't anymore, and I'm not trying to look all buff like I did when I lifted weights. I'm just trying to be in shape and keep my arms strong. This is perfect. I get to do 2 things at once. I'm working out my arms, and I'm getting some healthy, organic, fresh ground flour. And this is better for you than store-bought because it hasn't had all the good healthy fats removed from it to make it shelf stable. But that's also why you have to use it up right away or freeze it. Anyway, so I'll do this throughout the day, and I'll get a cup, you know, maybe up to 2 cups. It just depends on how many times I get back to it, because I can get real busy. Sometimes I forget. At the end of the day, I take this and I put it in the jar and I freeze it. So that's just one of my day-to-day activities. So here I am. It's about the end of the day. I got to get the rest of dinner cooking. You know, I got the roast in the solar oven, and now I got to get on to making Pat's cooking another couple turnovers up for Patrick, and getting the veggies, the zucchini mix that I'm going to have with as a side cooked up. And this was one of the last projects I needed to get done today. There's a lady in Texas that has been ordering some of my products, and she had ordered some soap and some hair rinse and shampoo from me, and in the last order that she made, I threw in a couple sample sizes of my skin cream, and she liked it so much that she's ordering 2 4-ounce jars. So that's what I got going on here. I'm about done with it. I just got to get it labeled and ready to ship off. So in the meantime, as I'm running around trying to get all this stuff done, I'm still trying to catch up on Big Bear's live show that they did last night. And I was trying to go back and forth between theirs and Oiley's, but it was too confusing. So I went to Oiley's and stuck with that, with the plans of listening to the rest of Big Bear's today. Well, what I found out that I had missed was a channel shout out from them to my channel, and I just sat there with my mouth hanging open and I couldn't believe it. And that's the second shout out I've had in a few days, and I don't even know what to think about it, but I thank the Lord for finally giving me that little bit more motivation I needed to get going, because this whole thing with the channel has been something that's brewing for a while, but I've just keep putting it off and keep putting it off, and now I'm just jumping in there and getting on it, and I seem to be finding a pretty fluid way of incorporating it into my busy day, and that surprised me too. But anyway, I'm humbled, and Robin, thank you so much for your kind words and for the shout out, and I'm gonna finish cooking dinner and finish listening to the great show you guys had last night, and God bless everyone. Thanks for watching.